And the Sports Bag Bros podcast is back on Thursday. And this is Thursday, the last day we'll have the show for this week. But we're going into an interesting and great weekend of sports, primarily the NFL playoffs. It's really coming down to it after these games are played. We're going to have the Final Four next week, and then the Super Bowl a week after that. Well, 2 weeks after that. Nevertheless, we're here for that. We're bringing it. What's up?
What's happening? I'm excited for this weekend. We have some very intriguing matchups in the NFL. Got the NCAA championship Monday night. It's gonna be a busy 3 days, man.
Yeah, it is. Seriously, I didn't even mention the national championship game. I didn't want to act like it didn't mean anything. Man, just so much great football coming on. We're not usually talking about this type of important NFL football at this time of year, and college football is still intruding on it. It's not typically like that. It's deeper now than it was in the past. Normally, the NFL just has their time and they're showing their power because I'm hearing about the national championship game, but I'm also forgetting about the national championship game, which we shouldn't be doing. But they're going to have their game on Monday. Martin Luther King Day is going to be on. I mean, Ohio State, obviously the favorite in this game. Notre Dame is just a better overall team, in my opinion, in terms of team play, not individuals. But, you look at a team that plays well together, they do have the advantages that other teams with stars don't necessarily have. We saw that even in basketball years ago with the Fab Five, a lot of talent, a good team, but they couldn't beat those veteran teams and win the championship.
Right. And what's funny to me is I'm seeing college football fans complaining that the game shouldn't be on Monday night. The national championship should not be on the Monday night. It should be Saturday night, blah, blah, blah. The NCAA knows better than to compete with the NFL. Come
At
on,
all.
man. Come on.
Especially during the playoff time, especially
Right.
with these teams that are in the playoffs right
I
now.
mean, if it was December, okay, maybe you might try and go up against the NFL week 12 or week 13, whatever it is, but not division round playoff weekend. No way.
Knuckleheads. But either way, they're going to have their time. They'll have their moment. And they better hope that there isn't some fire and brimstone game on Sunday that's going to take away from that. That they're still talking about come Monday, especially I think the biggest game of all the games being played is probably Buffalo playing Baltimore. That's the biggest game.
It seems like the best matchup, right? Like the two best teams where the other games the matchups aren't as close, at least
On paper.
perception, right? Um, and it's interesting because you think the Ravens are going to be able to run all over the Bills, but Josh Allen can put up numbers and yards, and if his guys aren't open, he can scramble for a first down.
Yeah.
I mean, and we know what Lamar Jackson can do. That's the most intriguing matchup I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking at that and highlighting it as the game of the weekend. Whatever happens there is probably going to overshadow anything else. And if it's something even above of what I'm thinking, it may just leak over into the national championship game in terms of taking some share away from it. It may just go and take some of that market share from the national championship game. But either way, just talking about those two huge teams, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, and you look at this point in the season now with the extra game, and even with a bye week, no one, Baltimore had their bye. No, actually, no, Baltimore didn't have a bye week. No one had a bye week between these two. They're consistently going through the grind, and now they come here. And again, I'll say what I said last week. No one wants to see Derrick Henry this late in the season, man.
Yeah, I see that. I hear that loud and clear. But again, Buffalo, they've been a contender for a few years now, and I think they're gonna come out with their own game plan, and they're gonna give Baltimore some things to think about themselves. I know they're concerned about Derrick Henry, but offensively, I feel that they're confident that they're gonna give Baltimore a lot to think about as well.
Yeah, and James Cook starting to play
Hmm.
well or been playing well. Now he's getting a chance for everyone to watch him play well. We saw what he did last week, the way he was running the ball. I think the exclamation point was when he ran that 16-yarder, when he just dragged everyone, got a little bit of a push at the end, but still, they have a little bit more determination. I guess we can go with the old adage, this isn't your daddy's Buffalo Bills. These Buffalo Bills aren't trying to go to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row and lose those games. They want to go and finally win one. And I think this is the year, if any other year, because I know a few times Buffalo's been in this spot, and it's been Kansas City has been their Achilles, and it still may be Kansas City if Kansas City can handle the Texans, which allegedly they should be able to, but you just don't freaking know. And they just want to go out there and show that they deserve it. They have the home field. This will be their last home field opportunity, only if the Texans do lose to Kansas City. As the number one seed, Kansas City still has the home field advantage if Buffalo were to win.
To me, if Buffalo's going to get to the Super Bowl, this is their year to do it
This is it.
because last year was sort of a disappointment. They had a lot of attention, but a lot of it was preseason and off the field. And this year, they weren't getting a lot of shine. They just kind of were going through the season, and at the end of the season, like, whoa, they're
Yeah.
14-2.
Yep.
Um, so I think they enjoy probably being maybe not I'm not gonna say underrated, but not being not getting a lot of attention, flying under the radar. And if they can get by Baltimore, man, that Kansas City game, I think Kansas City's gonna win. Although, you can't ever count out a playoff team in the
Nah.
second round. But yeah, Josh Allen, he's playing at an all-time level. He may not be throwing up ridiculous numbers, but he's not turning the ball over like he did in years past.
Yep.
He's using his feet more often when needed. He's just an all-around better quarterback this year.
Yeah, he's a tamed version of what Brett Favre used to be. Before, when Brett Favre was just the gunslinger and throwing it to anybody who decided to catch it, depending on, it didn't matter which team you were on, they're going to get the ball. And he eventually tamed himself a little bit, but Josh Allen seems like he's completely tamed, different than what he was before, and you would expect that with overall growth. He's now looking like the all-star, superstar, possible MVP of the league right now. But looking at their record and looking how they went about getting their record, we still have to think about it, whether it's legitimate or not. It's the AFC East, which was absolutely horrendous this year, with Miami being the only other team that might have had a chance. The Jets were a mess. The Patriots were a mess. And once again, it's Miami, and Miami had their own problems this year.
True, but they did beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, and they did beat the Chiefs. They did beat the Chiefs, but
Gave
this
them
is
their only
also a
loss.
year. This is
Well,
also a year that we looked at the Chiefs and we were like, when are they going to have that Chief-esque game? And this all season, they really haven't had the game that we thought the Mahomes-esque and the Travis Kelsey-esque team. And of course, with Xavier coming through in the draft with his speed, we was expecting that. Never really materialized throughout the season, just a little bit on occasion, and they just never really pulled away. They just kept winning. We were just kind of wondering, okay, when are they going to lose it? Well, they did lose, so what? And then they lost a second game because they really didn't care because they had
yeah,
their
'cause
seeding.
half the team was resting.
Yeah, exactly. So they show that they can just win games just not by just showing up, but because of familiarity. And I guess when the players are on the line, being there, having done that, now going for your third straight Super Bowl, it's just another day at the office. Now I was wondering, was the pressure on them? It doesn't feel like or seem like the pressure's on them.
Yeah, I mean, would they feel any pressure anyway? I mean, they've been to two Super Bowls in a row, 3 and 4 years. Is it right?
Yeah.
Um, so how are they going to feel pressure?
Well,
You
three in a
know,
row, history in the making. All
I
those
mean, I
elements.
get that, but when you've been through the grinder so many times, like, do you
And
really
that is
feel
true.
pressure during in the moments?
Sometimes I've always wondered, when it comes down to this pressure, you're on the final plateau when it comes to just being in the NFL. Even more the final plateau when you finally get to a Super Bowl. How much pressure? How much more pressure or excitement or anxiety you may have during a Super Bowl that you didn't have the previous Super Bowl, or even Tom Brady over and over and over going to Super Bowls, winning Super Bowls. Okay, does this one feel the same as the last? You're almost saying the same thing by the time you get to your final Super Bowl. In Tom Brady's case, I'm just saying as far as excitement, anxiety, and wondering, can I make a mistake, or if I'm going to be able to overcome the mistake? How much more, I don't know, important is it than the previous one? there's a certain level of excitement and importance you have on something, and then ultimately you just can't go any higher. Everything kind of seems the same.
I think if they start to feel any pressure, it'll be Super Bowl week with all of the questions. You
Yeah.
know, you're gonna would how would you feel if you're the first team to win three in a row?
Yep.
Those are that question's gonna be asked over and over and over again. And mm, will they feel the pressure at that point? I don't know. They might get annoyed having to answer the same questions all the time. Who knows? But um I think it would be different because they've been getting criticized all year. If they were steamrolling everybody, winning 30 to 10, 42 to 17, and,
Like
having
Detroit.
having comfortable wins week after week after week, now, they would be viewed as the odds-on favorite no matter what. But because they struggled in games and had some last-minute victories,
Hmm.
one-score wins, people don't see them as that juggernaut.
And then going into the playoffs, you do have injuries to worry about. Travis Kelsey hasn't looked himself this whole season. Patrick Mahomes, a high ankle sprain. We already know how he's played with injury in the past. He still goes out there and gives it a go and still wins the game. But this is just, I think, different with the intensity of what Buffalo may bring to the table, or even Baltimore, if they were to beat Buffalo. I think both teams are formidable if Kansas City, and we have to say if when it comes to the Houston Texans, because even CJ Stroud is, I don't even think it's only a CJ Stroud thing. It's a team thing. It's a D'Amico Ryans thing. He's coaching the team. He kind of exudes that confidence as a young coach with this team. It showed last year. They've taken the next step. They didn't fizzle. They're showing up again. They got their win. Now they're moving on.
Yeah, and the Chiefs might have to knock off a little bit of rust too.
That's
They
always
had
a
the bye
problem.
week. They had week 17. Mahomes didn't play. Half the team didn't play. Looking at the score, it looked like the practice squad was playing.
Yeah, it
You
was.
know,
Yeah,
um, so it'll be 3 weeks since they've played the game.
and
So
that's
they may have to deal with some rust issues early on, and some rhythm issues.
I always look at it like that. There's a double-edged sword when you're one of these teams, high-seeded teams that ends up getting a bye. It's a good and bad thing because you get the rest of your players, but then you also fall out of sync. And when you have a quarterback that has specific receivers, especially like Travis Kelsey, or even other receivers where it's built on timing, well, that timing is lost, and there's nothing you can do in practice that can emulate the timing you need in a game. You just can't get the same speed, the same type of urgency. You just don't have that. So I think even for Detroit, even though that over under is over 55, it's I believe 55 and a half right now, I think it's going to take about into the second quarter until you start seeing either the Detroit that we remember from this season, or if being off really bothered them.
Yeah, but at least in Detroit's case, their players played the last game of the
Yeah,
season.
they did.
They had to win the division still and beat the Vikings. So, they only had 1 week bye, whereas the Chiefs, they their players, their starters didn't play week 17. But, I'm thinking of how can the Texans pull off the victory. It's going to come down to their D line. If Will Anderson and the other DN can put consistent
They
pressure
do.
on Patrick Mahomes and force some poor throws, maybe an interception or two. It's easier said than done, but we have seen Patrick struggle when a lot of pressure is put on him. So if the Texans can put a lot of pressure on him without blitzing, they can make the game very interesting.
Yeah,
But then the counter to that is Andy Reese had a week to prepare for them,
yeah.
and he's going to have a plan to combat those strong rush ends.
Well, you and I, we talked about it for the duration of this season of how Kansas City just hasn't done it. They haven't pulled away, but we look at the record at the end of the day and we're saying, damn. And they did come from a pretty decent division. And I'm thinking though, Mahomes has had these issues when he was 100% healthy. Now he's not 100% healthy, and now trying to get away from Will Anderson is going to be a problem. Now that you're a gimpy Mahomes, and so I think that's an issue. How do you make your game plan? You can't move him around as much, I don't believe. Does he just take an aspirin or take a shot to help the pain or what? I just don't think he's going to be the same quarterback with his ability to move around and create plays that way. Not even just running the ball. You know, he Mahomes has won games as we've seen without having to get even 30 yards rushing. He just knows how to move in the pocket. He knows how to buy the time laterally and still find receivers. Now, with
So are they
what
saying he's still hobbling? Because he's had a couple weeks.
bro, a high ankle sprain, bro, is a high. If they're talking about the severity of the high
I
ankle
just ha-
sprain, the
I
way they
just
talk
haven't
about it,
heard that
yeah,
he's questionable or he's
oh no,
gimpy.
he's coming. He's gonna play. There's just no way. He's
I'm
playing.
just
Whether
saying I haven't heard no reports that he's gimpy or limping or still feeling the effects of the high ankle
whew,
sprain.
other than an aspirin, 3 weeks is not even close to enough for a high ankle sprain to just for the pain to go away, let alone being able to be effective on it. I mean, I'm not even going to compare myself to him, but I remember I had a high ankle sprain. I didn't have
Sounds like
doctors
you're
around the
doing
clock.
it.
No,
Sounds
but
like you're doing it.
but I'm just saying, I still felt the pain years later. So I'm just saying, I didn't have around the clock doctors. This the guy does. It may be helpful for him, much more helpful than for him. He could go to one of these rooms and get extra oxygen and make the bone grow and stimulate the bone growth and all that. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, everything in Kansas City is going to be cold as hell. First of all, hopefully not as cold as last year when people were getting frostbite acting on a fool out there in Kansas City. But is Houston ready for this weather? You know, Houston is on the is along. You know, it's on the same latitude as Jacksonville. So, so I mean, we get a lot of the same weather.
plus, plus at home they don't play in any kind of weather conditions. It's a dome.
It's a dome, and they open it up. They do it. You know, I guess they pick and choose when they want to open it. But yeah, I mean, overall, on paper, Kansas City is supposed to beat them. I don't know about blowing them out because Kansas City hasn't necessarily blown too many teams, if not any real teams, out this season. Now we're in the playoffs where everybody's at least earned the right to be there, and they're good because they're there. Unless you're San Diego, I mean, well, I guess San Diego, the way they played it, like the San Diego Chargers, the LA Chargers, and the way they played it, you know, the other night, but any other day. But either way, and by the way, the last time we were on, the Rams played. You know, so the Rams played the Chargers, and we didn't get a chance to talk about that because it was a Monday game. They pushed it because of the wildfires in California. If you had a chance to watch the game, that Matt Stafford, who I was just kind of shooting down on a show, on a podcast, his first few plays, man, that guy was on fire with those passes, man, like the first 8 or 9 completions.
Well, didn't I try telling you the Rams, when healthy, are dangerous?
Holy crap.
I
I
mean,
guess it's the Rams when Matt Stafford is healthy. I didn't think he had any problem.
well,
Even though he
earlier
was,
in the season he was missing receivers. I believe they're all back now.
yeah, shoot, this guy was lighting it up. You know, just the arm strength, just the arm strength. I heard about his arm. I watched him. He was at Georgia, but the way he threw the ball on Monday, I was like, the first few times he did it, I was like, whoa. And then it took him like the first 8 or 9 before he had an incomplete, and that was pretty much a drop. And I was like, man, this looks bad. And next thing you know, they just kind of pulled away.
I'll tell you what, though, the way the Vikings let go of the rope, that was very disappointing. I thought they put up a better fight than that.
With that record going into this game, I was expecting a lot more. It doesn't say anything about the NFC North and how good the NFC North is. They did have the great representation, those 3 teams coming out of there. So I'm not going to take anything away from them for saying that, you know, that the division was probably a fraud. Nah, it was just the damn Rams just had a night. They had a night. Matt Stafford in particular, starting off at least.
Vikings ran into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, they did.
That's about all you can say.
Yeah, that was insane right there. You know, and I was going back to what we were talking about with Baltimore, you know, playing Buffalo. Going back to that Lamar Jackson thing I was talking about just the other day when he had his ups and downs throughout the season. And I'm thinking like, man, he needs to be consistent. But then I'm thinking about the 41 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions on the season. And then he's still running the ball as well as he's running throughout his career, while setting records doing that. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is going on? Now, in the playoffs, does he continue to play that well? So far, so good. But Derrick Henry damn sure adds that different dimension to where there's more to worry about than just Lamar.
Well, I think it all comes down to the game plan and the Ravens sticking to the game plan. And they have to be successful on first down. You know, They get to 2nd and 5. Now the pretty much the whole playbook's open to them. If they can keep it in 3rd and shorts, you give the ball to Henry, move the chains, and just march down the field. But if they get into 2nd and long situations, well, now it's going to be up to Lamar Jackson more than likely using his arm. But I tell you that that game last week, they ran 5 or 6 RPOs in a row, and Lamar kept them each time. The ends were crashing, so he was going around the end, picking up 7, 8, 6 yards here, 10 yards there. But I think him keeping it that many times in a row, he got into a rhythm, and he's telling the world, "Yo, this is my game. We got Henry, but this is my game." And I think his confidence is at an all-time high. But it also could be he knows he has that horse behind him,
Yeah,
you know. So I picked the Bills to go to the Super Bowl, but I expect
and I
the
took Baltimore.
Ravens. I expect the Ravens to win.
Yeah, and 299 yards. But could this be said that it's Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is now on a 5-game losing streak, going into that game on a 4-game losing streak? So what they did against Pittsburgh, is that something surprising? The playoffs were supposed to be different because Tomlin does a better job in the playoffs. The Steelers historically have done a better job in the playoffs, but a 5-game losing streak, this looks a lot like what happened during the regular season when they were falling apart. They've completely collapsed. They're out of the playoffs. Could that have been just one of those scenarios? They played a team that just wasn't that good, that just ended up in the playoffs.
Possibly, but I also think the Steelers were selling out to stop the run. That's why Lamar was keeping those RPOs and running around. And you know, you got to pick your poison, and that's a tough choice to make, man.
Going back to how Lamar has played passing wise in particular in these playoff games, they look at him, there's a stigma upon him during the playoffs trying to get to a Super Bowl about his passing. But when you have 299 yards rushing, you do it like the run pass option or something they do it with Army or Navy in the college football ranks. It leaves a lot to be desired by a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that's known for being Blitzburg and physical and so forth. You know, they sold out to stop the run. They sold out. Period. They sold out the whole entire game. They couldn't do anything stopping the run. Lamar didn't necessarily have to pass. He didn't have to. They didn't have to rely on him to pass. I think he can, based on the overall numbers, and then even the times that we did see him when he was getting those 5 touchdowns in a game. He looked good, and it wasn't just highlights. You saw the games.
Well, unfortunately, until he does it in the playoffs, the
He
book is
hasn't
still
done it in
out.
the playoffs. Yep. Until you
You
do it in the
still you
playoffs,
gotta
you
show
haven't
me.
done it in the playoffs.
You gotta show me. And not just me, the world, the whole world wants to see it.
Yeah.
What if they're down 3 with a minute 45 to go with the ball at the 19
Yep.
yard line?
Bruh.
Can he take him down? Because they're not going to just feed Henry the rock at that point. He's going to have to use his arm. We'll see.
Well, yeah, we definitely have to see that, man. We got stuck in those 2 games that we are just talking about with Buffalo and Baltimore, and moving on. But looking at now, the Washington Redskins now playing Detroit. Detroit's expected to win. Detroit's been mowing people down, mowing teams down. The timing is still going to be somewhat of an issue, but as you already mentioned, they did play their players in the last opportunity they had in the regular season, so they're not going to be as rusty as Kansas City may be, because they've sat their players. Now I had a bye week, and now it's going to be 3 weeks since they've last played. But Washington coming into this game, rookie quarterback and all, he's still confident as hell. And now this is a stage for him to be on
For
and
sure.
show that he belongs, and doing a little bit more of what CJ Stroud did last season. In fact, I think he's done better than CJ Stroud this season. For a bit of the season, he was one of the most efficient passers in the entire league.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels, he's in a good rhythm right now. Their offensive line protects for him, and he has a good relationship with the receiver. What's the McLarnin?
According, yeah.
Um, you know, Before the season, whoever heard of McLarnin? But him and Daniels, they seem to hook up. They play well together. I just don't know if they'll be able to keep up with with the Lions.
It's
Word
gonna
is
be tough.
David Montgomery's coming back this week too.
That's what I was saying. Now David Montgomery's coming back. He's coming back from what is it, an MCL or ACL? I think it's an MCL sprain. So he's back. And I think someone was talking to me today about how if you took a running back, if you take Saquon Barkley out, Philadelphia loses. You take Derrick Henry out, they're going to lose. Well, you take David Montgomery out, you have Jameer Gibbs. You take Gibbs out, you have Montgomery. Bro, they had that duo that was able to run as effectively as they ran this year. And in fact, I think that's the only reason why Jared Goff looked half decent this year. In fact, I think he should look even better this year with that type of effective running game. That's still kind of throwing shade towards Jared Goff, who I had not had too much of
Man,
an
there's a lot of
affinity for.
quarterbacks in the league you don't really like.
Well, it's not even necessarily like Jared Goff was one of those dudes because he
Or
should not have been
well,
a number one
you
pick
have
overall.
big time doubts about some guys who
Oh yeah,
perform really well
absolutely.
though.
And man, I don't want to say Matt Stafford, but going in, I said Matt Stafford. But then they made the trade, and he gets a Super Bowl. But was it because of Matt Stafford? We're talking Aaron Donald. We're talking even Todd Gurley. Well, he was on the downside by then because his knees was shot by then. But anyways, yeah. But Jared Goff, you watch? I think you would watch Jared Goff a little bit more than me, being in the Midwest. What do you see from him? That's special, or is it just good or solid? You can win being solid. Brad Johnson
Well,
won
I
Super.
tell you what, I think if someone really tried, they could make a case for Amon St. Brown being the best wide
Oh,
receiver in the
without a
league.
doubt, without a doubt.
That
You know what? The worst.
I've seen Justin Jefferson get shut down. I've seen I don't know why Ocho Cinco came to mind, but I've seen in the past T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, they've gotten shut down. All these receivers get shut down. But I'm on St. Brown, when they need a third down conversion, he gets open.
Yeah, and you know what? And even I knew about him coming out of college. He went to USC, and I didn't think too much about him. You mentioned him last year, and I was like, really? First of all, you think of Detroit, even though I did pick Detroit to do some things, but not like I did this year. Thinking that they were going to continue doing what they're doing. But I was like, yo, all right, he's all right. But then I saw myself, this dude doesn't drop anything. And I was comparing him to Anquan Bolden. You know how Anquan Bolden had those hands that you just couldn't do
Yeah.
anything. Larry Fitzgerald had those hands. All of these receivers are great receivers. They're talented, extremely athletic. But then there's just a handful of receivers. Even Randy Moss had good hands, very good hands, but not great hands. I've seen him drop. I've seen Jerry Rice drop passes, but we're not even going to put Jerry Rice there. He's great and has shown it forever. But seeing like Anquan Bolden now say Brown reminds me a lot of what Anquan Bolden was doing. Just catching anything. You threw it in his direction, and he was double covered. You're disappointed if he didn't catch it.
Yeah, I just want to mention Chris Carter since we're
Oh,
mentioning
Chris
guys
Carter.
with
Oh, I
good
forgot about
hands.
him. Damn.
Yeah, I think Amon St.
Steve
Brown,
Largent.
he
Go
could
back to back.
be the best receiver in the league. He may not have the gaudy numbers, but he makes plays. And he makes big plays. And I'm that guy. Don't tell me what you did. Tell me when you did it.
And he
Jamar
does it.
Chase, you got the triple crown, but you're not in the playoffs, bro. I'm not saying Brown. He makes plays when the Lions need it.
And he's catching it from Jared Goff. But I
And that's
think
not a diss to Jamar Chase. I'm not trying to diss him.
Jamar Chase is
It's just a
legit.
fact.
But yeah, give credit what credit is due, though. And all eyes are on them because they're in Detroit and they are a formidable team. And probably right now, going into the playoffs, the odds on favorite to win the Super Bowl going into these playoffs. We'll get the chance to see once they come back from their vacay, having that bye week in the first week of the playoffs. But Puka Nakua is another guy that I'm starting to see a lot more of. And this dude's legit. Last year, I was like, yo, these numbers because of the extra game and all that stuff, man. When you watch him play, that dude can play. And he makes the catch, and he's a physical wide receiver. He's much more quick and fast, surprisingly quick. I didn't think anything. I was like, how did he fall to the fifth round? But the NFL misses all the damn time and makes good stories out of people later on.
I tell you what, that Rams Eagles matchup, that's a pretty good matchup. Also, that's probably the second best matchup of the weekend. Um, because like I said, the Rams are healthy.
They
They can
just got
put up,
hot, man.
yeah, they can put up numbers. They can put up points. It's going to be up to the Eagles and Saquon to keep that offense on the sidelines. And We'll see if the Eagles defense can slow them down. But Saquon's been running all over everybody.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the Rams can do to slow him down.
Now I'm wondering now, if you slow down Saquon Barkley, if you sell out to stop him, I don't think Jalen Hurts could win the game. I just don't think he's that quarterback. I think he's regressed since his Super Bowl season.
Add another guy to the list.
But has he regressed? I think he's regressed. I think Philly fans were just booing him like earlier this season. They probably believe a little bit of it. He's gotten back on it, but I think it kind of at the same time with Saquon Barkley became the huge name that he already was, but he just started doing ridiculous things. So you kind of settled down on the quarterback because he hasn't been asked to do a whole lot, but he's facilitated enough passing to where Saquon can continue doing what he's doing. I don't think that Jalen Hurts could win the game. I thought he was on the trajectory upwards coming out of that Super Bowl where he could have been a losing quarterback and still gotten an MVP. That's how well he played.
Yeah, and I got to give ESPN credit for this because this is where I got the numbers. This Rams defense has statistically performed better than when they had Aaron Donald.
Man,
They've
I didn't even think
they've
about that.
gotten more sacks. They've given up less points. They've given up less yardage. So if the defense is better without Darnold, man, um, and Jalen Hurts is going to be the one to have to take them to victory, could be a tall order to ask.
Well, maybe those Rams are being more accountable now. When you have that dominant play that you know you can rely on all the time, not that they relax, but they know that the job is going to get done, whether they mess up or whether they can't put forth their best effort for that time. So now that he's gone, everybody has to be accountable. You can't. You'll be glaringly the mistake, or glaringly the person who makes the mistake if you did make a mistake. Someone can't pick it up for you, which it probably was Aaron Donald a lot of times. Made you look better. Maybe that defensive back that needed, if that extra second would have come, might have gotten beaten, but Aaron Donald's there to disrupt the pass or disrupt the flow of the pass. And now that receiver can't get the ball, and the defensive back doesn't get exposed for getting burnt. So maybe that's what happened. But the Rams better. Is it that West Coast bias? Because we're over here in the East Coast. At least I'm over here in the East Coast, and there's only 32 teams. You could watch these teams when you have 16 games, but you don't. Over here, at least, I don't tend to watch or look for Rams games. If Even if they're a national game, I'm not watching the Rams often unless I just feel like watching football that day. So when you see them now in the playoffs, you're like, damn, man, I've been missing. I've been seeing the highlights when they had highlights. I've read some things, but not necessarily watched their games completely, or for even just 3 or 4 games all season. Now you get a chance to see how they played, and they beat the living daylights out of a Minnesota team that, that was supposed to have been very good, but at the same time, I still respect Sam Darnold. I think he's the comeback player of the year because of what he had done. But would you really kind of expecting the walls to come in down on him eventually? Sam Darnold was going to be kind of like journeymanish in a game.
I didn't expect it last week. No,
No, I didn't expect it, but I figured that it'll come. I thought it would be in the next round. I thought the Minnesota would have won. No, I didn't pick the Rams. But
I,
somewhere along the line in the playoffs, I expected them to finally just, Sam Darnold was in over his head. But the way it turned out, the Rams made him seem like he was in over his head and the rest of the team.
yeah, like I said, they ran into a buzzsaw. As far as the Rams not getting a lot of attention this year, I think it has a lot to do with them getting off to a slow start. I mean, they lost to the
Yeah.
Bears in like week 5 or something. You know, nobody was thinking about the Rams. They weren't playing well, but they got healthy and they got it rolling, and here they are. They're a dangerous team.
And they still talking about how it wasn't just playing for themselves. The wildfires out there, being in LA,
Oh
that
yeah, I
probably
forgot about
inspired them
that.
just as well. Just as well.
Yeah,
It was a
we
packed
talked
crowd
about
out
like
there, by the way, in Arizona. I was expecting that kind of crowd.
yeah, I guess they were sending busloads of Rams fans.
Yeah, but that place was packed. I was expecting it to look like a Jaguar game. It
You
ended
know
up being
what? I
packed.
gotta tip my hat to those guys because for them to play that well under those
Yep.
circumstances, that shows a lot. You gotta tip your hat to McVay too. He got those guys to come together and do their jobs, and they spanked the Vikings.
In every facet, especially in the beginning. They got out to that early start, man, and then they just pounded on them. they kind of settled down, but kind of just held serve for the rest of the game afterwards. And Minnesota never got anything going. It had a lot to do with that Rams defense, but in the beginning is what set the
I mean, how
tempo.
many times can you get down to the goal line, you go for it, and you come up with no points, man?
Nothing.
Just keep throwing
kind
the
of
ball out of bounds.
It's kind of like with the Steelers, man, when Mike Tomlin kept going for it on fourth down, couldn't get that 1 yard. And before halftime, if we can't get that 1 yard, we don't need to win the game. And guess what? You didn't win the game. So yeah, I guess,
I can't be mad at him. I can't.
man. But yeah, the Rams could be one of those teams that gets hot at the right time. Sometimes in the Super Bowl or just in the playoffs, you see these teams that just get hot at the right time. These wild card teams. Remember, the Giants got hot at the right time. Ended up going to the Super Bowl, playing the Patriots, looking for an undefeated season. Those Patriots and the Giants beat them. So it's been times I think the Steelers did the same thing. A wild card team that just gets hot at the right time, and that's it. These Rams could do that with a little bit more of inspiration from home based on the catastrophe everyone's dealing with right now in Los Angeles area and Los Angeles area, them playing for them is bigger than themselves. So maybe it is something that's kind of gonna go a little further out.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I think these are going to be some really good games. Even the Texans Chiefs. I mean, it might end up being 17-13,
That's most of the Chiefs games this year,
17-14,
though.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
they just end up winning. And I think that home field advantage may mean something. It should mean something this time of year. Those rabid Kansas City Chiefs fans in that cold weather, that speaks for itself. But I'm still wondering about Mahomes' ankle. I know we haven't heard a lot about it or anything at all, but it just doesn't go away like that. A high ankle sprain is a high ankle sprain. I know you can get treatment. I know you can take a shot. I know you can take an aspirin. All of those things football players do any damn way. But I'm just not looking at it on paper that Houston can win, but the games aren't played on paper. They're played, at least here, on grass where Kansas City is going to play this game on what, Saturday? So yeah,
yeah,
that's
is
a
it
lot
really
of
going to be grass? Or is it going to be almost
concrete, right?
concrete?
Painted concrete. That's by then. I mean, it's going to be the Midwest and the Northeast just bitter cold just coming through. Even in the South,
Man, all I know is that in Chicago, when the Bears are in the playoffs, they have home games. They don't play on dirt. I mean, they don't play on grass. They play on painted dirt. I
painted
mean,
dirt. That's exactly what it is. A marble floor. You might as well bring back the old AstroTurf where people just bounced and broke like glass when they fell down there, or the old Veterans Stadium out here in Philadelphia where Carmichael, the wide receiver Harold Carmichael just tore up his knees
yeah.
in his career. Oh God! But yeah, man. So that's the NFL, man. And going back to college football, well, the national championship game. I don't think how much is really there to say once you talk so much about the NFL. And I don't know, man. I've been saying that it's anticlimactic now for the second week. It just doesn't seem like this is a national championship game, and it has nothing to do with the teams that are involved. I'm not upset because it's Ohio State. I'm not upset because well, maybe Notre Dame, but I'm not generally speaking. I'm not upset that those teams are there. It just doesn't seem the excitement just isn't there. There was those years that we saw the whole build up for a week for the national championship game, and everybody kind of chomped at the bit for it, even when there was NFL in the background.
Yeah, I think it's the new playoff format. I think it got off to a bad start with all the blowouts
Yep.
and people people maybe lost interest. SEC fans are in their feelings. Alabama didn't make it. Georgia got bounced. Tennessee got bounced right away.
Blown out.
So, yeah,
Shoot.
so SEC fans may not care who's playing Monday night. But I tell you, I saw something funny. It had to be an Ohio State fan. He tried to say that Ohio State winning this national championship. He put Tennessee. Who did Tennessee, Oregon? Who they beat last week?
Texas.
Texas, and Notre Dame. He's saying that's the the toughest 4 week stretch in history, and they might be the greatest. They might be the greatest team in history. And
There's
I'm
always
like,
one of those.
well, oh, you might want to ask the people up in Ann Arbor about that because it wasn't that long ago when they got their ass beat.
Oh my God. Come on, man. They're just making it up, just make it
You
seem like
can't
there
you
was.
can't be a two-loss team and claim to be the greatest of all time. That's
Oh,
all I'm saying.
exactly. Well, we have 2 losses because it was just difficult going through the games, and you had a Michigan team that just brought back, their defense, and everything else was just a mess, and it's a rivalry game, and you lost your 3rd straight game against. But you know what? They still find a way into the playoffs. So, and they've made the most of it. And the Notre Dame coming back from what Northern Illinois had done to them, and just I mean, I think Notre Dame just been through a tougher road. Not to mention not winning a division, a conference. So they went through a tougher road going on the road, even though it was it Boise State. They went on, no, no, actually, yeah, they go no, they go to Boise State. The Penn State played Boise and shut them down. But it's just that Ohio State, man, I think they're
Indiana.
good. Indiana, yeah, they play Indiana. Come on, I mean, I was expecting Indiana to do more. I mean, I really was. I thought offensively they would be able to get some things at least started. I didn't expect them to win the game, but I thought they would
They
put up a
got
better fight.
they got manhandled.
Manhandle wasn't the word. They just got the Battle of Indiana. Forget about it, man. That was just a mess. But if if I have to make a pick, it's going to see. I want to pick a Notre Dame, but because of just the overall team play, and it has nothing to do with Marcus Freeman setting all of these. I don't know if they're even records anymore. Just claims, I guess, that people are putting on him. He's deflecting them left and right. I'm going to have to take Ohio State and see how that goes because I still can't forget convicts versus Catholics or Catholics versus convicts. I still can't forget the
So
Fiesta Bowl either. But
I'm
yeah,
picking Ohio State, but I'm going for Notre Dame.
oh well, I'll just go Ohio State, and Ohio State just needs to win. I'm not going for them. They just need to win just for it to come true. But man, and you talk about some of these teams, by the way, these college football players, Carson Beck, going to Miami. I know I saw a list of players that's the teams with the best
I saw a
quarterback.
report that Alabama wanted him.
Who, Carson Beck?
Yeah.
They probably did, but it looks like everybody's running from Alabama now. I thought DeBoer would be the reason why they came to Alabama because of his offensive mind. It didn't work out so well because I think Jalen Monroe was the biggest problem. That's ridiculous. But Alabama just lost a 5-star offensive lineman who decommitted from Alabama. That's not good. I hope this doesn't continue. If it does, Kellen DeBoer, who I thought would be uh,
One
a
one of
special
their
quarterback, a special, huh?
one of their starters transferred to Nebraska. One of their offensive linemen.
See, that's what I'm talking about. This is the transfer portal age, but Alabama wasn't the ones who purged starters. They usually just purged backups, the depth guys that were still good enough to play anywhere else, like the Jerome Fords, who was able to go to Cincinnati because he couldn't wait his turn at Alabama, became an NFL player because of that. Alabama's now is purging starters going to other teams. Georgia doesn't purge starters. No, those top teams rarely purge starters. It's usually those depth guys, and those depth guys are normally better than everybody else anyway. So they go somewhere and they start. But yeah, so DJ Lagway, at least according to this list, was the number 1 quarterback going into 2025. That's the true freshman now going to be true sophomore quarterback for the University of Florida. Missed the football in Texas when he came out. Well, back in 2024, he left high school, 2024, graduated. But I don't know, man. Quinn Ewers goes to the NFL. He's not a first rounder anyway. I haven't thought at any point in his career at Texas that he was a first rounder, but yet there were people claiming he was a first rounder. I watched him. I didn't have anything against him. I just didn't see first rounder.
Well, it looks like it's a poor quarterback class, so
Terrible.
it might make sense for him to go this year.
Yeah, I thought he had a COVID year available. He could be doing what Carson Beck did. Goes into the draft, finds out where he's going, and decides, you know what, let me transfer somewhere else. But where
Right.
else would you want to transfer? You got Texas. You're talking talent. Where else could you go that you couldn't do at Texas other than you don't have to look behind your back for Arch Manning at the other school if you decide to go to another school. But what school would that be? Now, they were talking about him going to Alabama a while ago. Then they talked about him going to Miami. I guess that's over with. So I don't know. But anyways, he's
Well,
in
you
the
know
NFL.
what's crazy is I saw a report that Bill Belichick hasn't signed a contract with North Carolina yet.
I haven't seen that. I just saw a story saying that Bill Belichick is not leaving. So Lombardi over there at North Carolina saying that he's done with the NFL. Why? Because he told you, or did you just say that hoping that you'll throw it out there in the universe and hopefully he doesn't do it?
I
I
don't
haven't
know.
heard that.
The Dallas job became available. I
Well, I
think
thought,
that's a perfect spot for Dion, but
really,
um,
I thought it was a
I think
terrible
so.
spot for Dion.
I
Two
think it's a
guys who like
perfect
the
spot for.
spotlight.
I mean, what other franchise is going to give him a shot in the NFL?
Oh yeah, no, I was hoping he just stayed in college and just did his time in college. I'm serious because we don't know whether he's a great or good coach yet because of the transfer portal and just adding all those players. You're not going to have that dangling up the carrot in front of the player anymore. And you don't hardly have that in college now. But in NFL, we already know that doesn't
But
happen.
Jerry Jones loves attention. Who's going to get more attention than
Yeah, who's going to get more
Dion?
attention? Yeah, but Jerry Jones still
But he's
loves the
going to be more
attention.
attention to the franchise. It's going to be more attention for everybody.
But he wants attention himself. So you're going to have him
I
and
know.
Coach Prime trying to tug and war with this the attention thing again. Jerry Jones isn't going anywhere. And the, Prime is probably going to say something at a press conference after a loss or at some point or another. And he's going to throw shade. And then the next thing you know, Jerry Jones is saying things. You know, it's going to be a lot like when Jimmy Johnson was there. It's
I
gonna
don't
be
know.
a
I think it's worth a shot for the Cowboys to hire him.
I heard Rob Saleh had come in, from the Jets. He's a defensive guy. And by the way, I think up there in your way, Caleb Williams is saying that he wants an offensive coach. Does he have say in the matter? Or should he have say in the matter?
I don't
Because
believe he does, but I saw a report that Caleb wants Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles wants Ben Johnson, and I'm like, well, if Ryan Poles wants Ben Johnson and he's the GM, well, why isn't he hiring Ben Johnson?
because Ben Johnson has so
So,
many options and Ben Johnson may not want them.
well,
That's
but he interviewed for it.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, shoot, these guys are going to take everybody's interviewing with Ben Johnson right now. These Zoom calls are really helping him out because he doesn't have to break his preparation. He can just stay in one location and just knock them out. I mean, everybody wants Ben Johnson. That's been said before the season started. He had opportunities last year. He didn't decide to go with, came back with Detroit, and look where they are, having an opportunity to move forward and possibly get to the Super Bowl. Man, what a way to end it if he ends up in the Super Bowl and he's the offensive coordinator and just kind of picking whatever job he wants. There's a boatload of jobs out there. Which is the best job to take?
so when I heard the Bears were going to interview Mike McCarthy, I was like, damn,
Oh God,
I
that guy.
thought it was a done deal. But today I saw they reached out to the Packers to interview one of their guys on
Yeah,
their
I saw
coaching
that.
staff. So I'm like, well, it must not be a done deal if they're still trying to bring more guys into interview. So I don't know if I want that guy from the Packers, but at least I don't want Mike McCarthy, man.
No, you know what? Did you ever really think he was that great a coach? Anyways, I thought he was a
No.
decent coach, a great coach, even before Andy Reid started. When Andy Reid was losing with the Eagles in the Super Bowl here in Jacksonville against the Patriots, I was still calling Andy Reid a great coach back then, and he's just proven to be a great coach now because he was that offensive mind. So didn't he come from that Bill Walsh tree or that the Shanahan tree?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I
Yeah,
just know a lot of people on the radio here in Chicago. For some reason, they think McCarthy's a great fit. They
because
think
he
that
the
he's the
win.
one that developed Aaron Rodgers. They did go to the Super Bowl and all that, but I don't know. I just don't see it.
Nah, I don't. As far as him, he's a named guy, but I don't think he's done. He has won a Super Bowl, but look what you had to win a Super Bowl with. And now you do have a number one overall pick with Caleb Williams, and what can you really do with him? Because they did. I think the Bears made the most splash moves in the offseason last year, and I was expecting more offensively from them. It just didn't
Yeah,
come into fruition. But
yeah.
if
Or
they
it
were to
probably was. It was at the kids' splash pad in the shallow water.
right? Yeah, like a puddle, and just puddle it out there. But I think that I don't Ben Johnson going there would be an excellent move based on what he's done now for the past 2 seasons and the way that offense has been going on. Ken Dorsey's name hasn't come up. Everybody's always bringing up Ken Dorsey at some point or another. John Gruden's name it started, but then it stopped. I don't know what's going on there. And then
Yeah,
you got
I have not seen his name associated with the Bears. That's
I
for
don't know. I
sure.
haven't seen his name associated with anybody now. I heard the name in the beginning. It's probably, oh, what about John Gruden? He could come back now. And then now nothing. unless he's one of these coaches taking these meetings on the slide, not saying anything until the day we turn on television on, like John Gruden's hired at wherever he's hired. Maybe the Raiders take him back. Come on. I mean, he only left the Raiders anyway because of what ended up happening. He didn't leave because they thought he was doing a bad job, even though I thought he was doing a bad job.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I like I said, I'll take him in Chicago, but I haven't seen his name associated with the Bears, and as you mentioned, no one else. So
Yeah.
um, seems like he's on the back burner.
And I hear Trevor Lawrence here in Jacksonville saying he wants an offensive guy. And I think when Peterson was fired, Shad Khan specifically said that Trevor Lawrence wouldn't have a say so in who's being hired next. So damn, I think he's just gonna ignore Shad Khan and say, "Well, I hope you get that offensive coordinator. I hope you get an
He can
offensive
still
guy."
say he can still say what he wants. It
He
just
said what
doesn't
he
mean they're
wants.
gonna listen.
Yeah, but Shad Khan apparently he's not gonna listen. I remember when they were talking about getting rid of Trent Baalke, the GM here, who everybody wanted out of here. They was like, "How the hell do you get rid of Peterson? And don't get rid of him. You need to start a new." And Shad Khan said, "Getting rid of Baalke would have been suicidal." I still don't get what he meant by that because it's suicidal now. Him still picking the new head coach, and he seems like to be the one constant, the common denominator. As more coaches come in here, more coaches lose. This is the same guy who hired Urban Meyer and thought it was a good idea. Come on, man. But anyway,
Yeah, so who are the Jags interviewing?
oh God, uh,
Everybody like the Bears?
yeah, I think they had like, man, I thought like 10 or 15 or something like that.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, and I
That's
guess it's
crazy, man.
apparently guys that I don't know who the heck they are on whatever roster they're on or
Like
coaching
I'm
staff.
just trying to think of the process when you interview so many guys. Like, are there some guys when the interview's done, like, man, scratch him off the list. We just wasted our time. Or, that guy was really good and we're gonna put him on the follow-up list. And then you start ranking them one through nine. Hey, come on, man. 9 guys, 10 guys.
Yeah, exactly, man. And they start looking the same after a while when you start eliminating guys and keeping some guys, and then you have your probably like they do the draft big board. You have your first tier guy, your second
And,
tier guy, third tier guys.
and let me say this too. I'm so tired of the term leader of men. Come on. I heard Caleb
Jim
Williams say
Rome.
they asked him, what would he like in his coach, and he said he wants an offensive guy, and you can hear him thinking, a leader of men. The fuck does leader of men mean, man?
Well, in this day and age, he better be a leader of men in the NFL, man.
Yeah, I mean that should be a prerequisite.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess it's just a little bit of that word salad you want to throw in there, just taking up the airwaves.
I don't
But
know. It's like, well, this guy he knows everything about offense, but his leadership qualities suck.
North
Well,
Turner,
then don't interview that
North
guy.
Turner, damn North
Don't
Turner,
interview that guy.
man. You just don't know what you're going to get into. Kellen Moore has now been interviewed. Who interviewed him? Man, I can't remember who. I think Dallas might. I think Dallas might have interviewed him. One of those. Well, one of these 7 teams now since McCarthy got bounced has interviewed him. But Kellen Moore, I mean, he's another one. I remember him was just a quarterback at Boise State. Whoever would have thunk? Now Ken Dorsey, once again, I haven't heard his name at all. So hopefully he's a
I don't
better
know. But
offensive
the
coordinator.
Bears need a guy, a no nonsense guy. I mentioned it maybe last week, like when Ditka came in. Ditka didn't care about nothing from nobody. It was his way or the highway. And he told players,
Yeah, he told
I
me
got
that.
good news and I got some bad news. We're winning the Super Bowl, but a lot of you guys ain't gonna be here. That you needed somebody to just go in there and take control. And people don't like it. There's the door. Peace.
Well, he showed them the door anyway. The ones who did like it, they just weren't good enough or part of his system. Got him out of there. So yeah, I guess
I'm
that'll
not
be it.
saying they
Hey,
have to be all abrasive like Ditka, but somebody who is in
can't do that now
control
anyway.
and makes the tough decisions and can manage the clock at the end of the game. That was another thing Caleb Williams said. There was a shot of
Oh
Eberflus.
God, man, he's still shooting him out the door, man. I wonder what these coaches think when they know that it's towards them. That he got me fired or whatever, man. You got yourself fired. You was gonna get fired before he came any damn way. You should have been fired before he came.
You
So anything else basketball wise coming up? Wimby
No,
looking sick.
have you seen all this talk that LeBron, when he was 16, he went to I guess Michael Jordan had a gym or something, and he went there, and there were a lot of pros. Obviously, you haven't heard because you're just listening, but he says Michael and the older guys, a lot of them were all stars and stuff. They didn't let younger people on the court, and he was there all day. And then towards the end, he finally got his chance to get on the court. And I think he was on the podcast with the Kelseys, and they asked him, "Who guarded you?" He's like, "Nobody. I was killing." And so all these LeBron fans are saying
You
he
already
was
know that.
killing Jordan. That's why Jordan retired. He didn't want to play when LeBron played and this and that. Are you serious? Have you ever been at a gym all day or at the park all day? You play your first game at 11 o'clock and it's 4 o'clock and you've been playing all day, and then somebody shows up and he's fresh and he's
Yeah,
trying to
right.
go with you hard and like,
Young
come on,
too.
man, he just got here. Nobody cares about that dude. You think they cared about LeBron?
Nah, apparently not. Cooper Flag they cared about. Now that guy starting to do some things for Duke, but yeah. But but LeBron, the old ABCD camps when he was there, when he made his name, and everybody knows, I guess, with the Lenny Cook thing, and Sebastian Telfair was there, you know, well, actually, was Sebastian Telfair there? No, he wasn't there that year. It was Carmelo Anthony and LeBron were there with Lenny Cook, and he was killing it there. That's when he pretty much established himself. I remember when he won Mr. Basketball in Ohio. That's when in his sophomore year. That's when I was talking about him, trying to see what he's really about. And I was gonna go up there to see it for myself. But then I couldn't get a guarantee from ESPN of getting into the gym. And I was like, bro, it's cold as hell out there. How the hell look like going to damn Ohio trying to check him out and looking for the outside? Now, I'm not watching this on ESPN when I can do it down here in Florida, man. But yeah, I remember that. But yeah, he was a special player. There's no doubt as a high school player, easily one of the best I think most people has ever seen, if not everybody's ever seen as a high school player. Because Kobe wasn't even like that coming out of high school. And that's the reason why it took him about 3 years until he started becoming more of the Kobe we remember.
Yeah, I'm just saying, when you come at the end of the day
Yeah, I know.
and other
Fresh as a
dudes been out
daisy.
there, yeah, everyone's else been out there all day, and you're trying to go hard, you're 100%, like, you're playing defense like Rodman, trying to go,
Them tired dudes don't want to
paper at
chase
the
you.
hoop like Kobe, and, like, motherfuckers be like, "Man, who's this dude, man?" Just showing up 5 hours later.
Well, he got a legacy. I don't know, man. You know,
I don't know, I just find it funny how all these LeBron fans try to always find something to
everything, man.
proclaim LeBron as the GOAT and down Jordan.
Man, exactly. I see it both ways, but man, you can't just enjoy these guys while they're playing like we enjoyed MJ while he was coming up, even if you weren't a Bulls fan or he was killing your team, being a Knicks fan. You still enjoy while he played, man. You hated every moment that he did it, but you acknowledged and admired what he had done. And LeBron
Uh,
can do the same thing here, even though it's a completely different game. I don't even know how they can make the comparison contrast between the two when the game is so freaking different now than it was back then.
Yeah, it's way different.
Way different, man.
Um, like, not too many guys go to the hole consistently, but there's there's nobody inside to stop them
No,
for the most part.
but you get
Well,
your
but did you see Wemby getting dunked on last night?
he got dunked by
Zach
Edie, right?
Edey got him. John Morant got him.
Ja Morant got him. I didn't see that part, man.
Well, it didn't
Yeah.
count. I think there was a foul or something. It didn't count, but oh, John Morant,
Ja Morant, he still
he
get up
cocked
there.
his back on him and threw it down. I was like, ooh. And he went to the bench right away, and everybody was showing him love. Wemby was getting dunked on. I think he got
Did he
dunked
get
on
like
like
8 blocks
3
though?
times yesterday. Huh?
Did he have like 8 blocks?
Oh, he blocked some shots, but
If
I'm just
that's
saying. But that's the thing. If you're a big man and you try to block shots, you're gonna get
you
dunked
gonna
on.
get dunked though, because you're always there. But come on, I
Right.
saw him and Edie with those two verticals, man. Getting dunked, man. Those two don't look like straws just jumping up. But yeah, man, it looks. I don't know, man. This dude, I think the awful coach said he's going to probably be the greatest defensive player of all time. If this is what he's doing in year two,
Wemby?
yeah, you know what? If he's doing this in year two and it can only get better, bro, I think that's not even far fetched. That dude is doing some insane work defensively
Yeah.
and going with the awful coach and the way he's able to break down the games and show you exactly what you're like. Damn, and like me being a
I, s-
layman just watching basketball, that's one
I
thing.
saw
When it,
I saw a highlight of him blocking one of Steph Curry's 3-point attempts, and he was like 12 feet away. It
look
was
at that
not like
wingspan.
yeah, it was not like he was all up on him.
Him up at the
Steph had let
dots.
it go when he came. He still blocked it
That's what I'm
for
saying,
three
man. This guy's an
point.
octopus, bro, with those long arms.
Giraffe.
Giraffe, man, he's just serious. The way the awful coach breaks it down of him just going up and down the floor and the things he specifically points out. I'm like, oh, bro, and his footwork. You know, he worked with Dream this past offseason. I think he did. It's
Mhm.
bro, and it's showing. And maybe Edie also worked with Dream the way he's doing things these days. I don't know. Maybe he just kept it a secret. But
Yeah,
anyways,
I mean the thing about Edie is he's solid. You're not gonna move him if he doesn't want to
no,
move.
he got bricks.
Yeah,
Isn't he a Canadian kid too? You get
yeah.
a lot of these Canadians just
He
coming
used
in
to
just
play
running it.
hockey growing up.
That's where the toughness comes from, the hockey guys. Just like that footwork from the soccer comes to these basketball players. I guess that toughness of playing football once upon a time, or hockey in particular, being in Canada, or even lacrosse, which is actually the country's national game, lacrosse. You would think it would be hockey, but anyways, another story for another day. I guess this brings it to a conclusion. So
So let's
now,
just recap.
uh,
Recap.
yeah, I'm
I
about to
got the
say,
Ravens. I got the Rams. Got the Lions and the Chiefs and Notre Dame. Fuck Ohio State.
man, I want to go with Notre Dame, but I just don't like them. It's bitter from '88. Man, it's bitter. But yeah, man, I'm gonna with the Kansas City and the Chiefs in Texas. I'm gonna take Kansas City, obviously, and then the Detroit over the Command. It's almost like chalk. But then Philadelphia and the Rams. Man, you know what? The way the Rams just played, if they're one of those wild card teams that's starting to play well just because of the playoffs, I'm still thinking Jalen Hurts can't win the freaking game. But it's in Philly. I'll go with freaking Philly. I know it looks like chalk, and it is chalk. And then finally, Buffalo and the Ravens. Man, I'm going with the Ravens, man. The Ravens, I'm thinking the running game can't get stopped. And I think Lamar Jackson finally gets over that hump, able to pass the ball only because he has a running back to have to worry about as well.
I did say
41 and 4.
I did say I picked the Ravens, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. As long as their offensive coordinator doesn't try to outthink himself and
They get too cute sometimes.
just right, just stick to the game plan, run the ball, play action, RPOs, play action, Henry left, Henry right, keep it, Lamar Jackson around and
Is Zay
you don't have
Flowers playing?
no.
Oh, wow. But
He
still.
hasn't been practicing. I guess Harbaugh said he doesn't have to practice. If he can go on Sunday, he's gonna go on Sunday.
You damn
But
right.
we'll
That's
see.
bro. This is it. This is
At
what
the
you're doing
moment, at
for.
the moment, he's not, but he got a couple days.
Yeah, all right. So that'll be it when it comes to that. So yo, let's close it up. He's Biased. I'm Trav, and the Sports Bag Bros podcast will be back next week. I think maybe Tuesday or even late Monday night, I guess, if it comes down to it. It's MLK Day. Got to take the day trip for the MLK Day. So until then, deuces.
Peace.